But he also had about him certain values that helped to simplify things for him. One thing he had was faith. He believed in the simple facts of his religion. May have been a little narrow, but what he believed, he tried to live. He also believed in himself. He believed in his family. He believed in the importance of clearing that back 40 acres of stumps and old broken down dead trees in order that his sons might have farms when they grew up. And pretty soon his sons were out there helping him clear the land. This was a different kind of world. It was a world in which there was very much less neurosis than there is today, simply because people had plans, programs, simple projects, and stayed with them. So our Zen teaching says, let's start by saving energy. Let's save energy by having a program. Never wake up in the morning for a day which you are going to approach as you might by firing both barrels of a shotgun and hoping to hit something. The day has a reason and a purpose. If you have no idea what you are going to do with it, then you might as well settle down quietly for a little while before the day gets well underway and decide what you're going to do with it. A day that is meaningless, a day that is purposeless, is just an energy waster. And where energy is wasted in this way, nearly always consequences are set in motion that demand more energy to repair damage. We cannot have a meaningless day without something coming along by which we hurt ourselves. If this meaningless day really was nothing, it wouldn't be quite so bad. But this meaningless day made through boredom lead us to extravagance that is desperately dangerous to us. So we can't afford this kind of a day. We have to have some reason for getting up in the morning. Now, we have reasons in the West for getting up. One is the job. This means that we've got to drag ourselves out and get down to the old office or factory or something of that nature on time or have our pay docked. This is called the incentive system. But no one seems to be very much thrilled by it. Actually, the job has to be done. We have to pay the bills of life. There's no doubt about it. But an individual whose life is only a job is missing a great deal of something. The individual whose life is not only just a job, but just a job which he resents. A job in which he finds no satisfaction, but simply a monotonous repetition of an assigned task for no purpose. Well, perhaps there is a purpose. Man has a family. He is duty-bound to do what he can to support and advance the state of that family. So he must work to make sure that these others have what they need. But today the work program is such that if the individual takes all negative emotion out of it, takes all boredom and resentment out of it, frees himself from the self-pity angle of the job, like the man who says, I work all day and earn the money. I don't even get a dime out of it myself. It all goes to the family. This is self-pity. And while this remains as the psychology of life for that individual, self-pity can end only in a pitiful state for him. So whatever we are doing with this problem of daily survival, we've got to think it through, organize it, and get the acidity out of it. If it's a job that needs doing, then it has to be done. And all regrets, all evasions, all excuses, and all flag-waving, and all revolutions have nothing to do with the simple fact that if we have a responsibility, we have to meet it. If we have bills, we have to pay them. Now, the moment we begin to stop thinking in this direct way, we start running up bills we can't pay and begin the old song that the world owes us a living or something of that nature and go from bad to worse. The simple answer is when you get up in the morning, plan your day and understand your day, realizing that this day must in many ways be a day of acceptances. You are committed by yesterday to many things, and today you will commit tomorrow to some things. This is not bad, but if you do it, face it, accept it, and carry the responsibilities that you yourself have voluntarily assumed. When you get through with the basic pattern of the day, the day's responsibilities, then what have you planned? What have you done to solve the problem? Well, you say by the time the day is over, there's not much you can do. I'm worn out. Responsibilities have cut me down. Barely have strength enough to get back home and turn on the television. If that doesn't wear you down, you're really a massive character. But actually, experiment has shown, under very careful test situations, that a person coming home from work is exactly like a child in the various grade rooms of a school. The individual who comes back from work is not tired, except in a very few cases. Maybe 10% of workers are physically tired. The other 90% are bored to distraction, worn out, complaining, fussing, frustrated, neurotic, but not tired. The exhaustion is psychic fatigue. They have sold themselves to the fact that they are worn down to a frazzle. They're worn out simply because it is the only way in which they can excuse the fact that as personal beings, they have no lives. An individual doesn't like to come home to himself or anyone else and say, well, I've done my shift in the office, and I'm now coming home and I'm going to fall apart because there's absolutely nothing here that means anything to me. I don't find any pleasure in my home. I find nothing stimulating in it. I find no reason to be glad I'm here. So fortunately, I'm worn out and I can go to sleep. This is just an excuse mechanism within the person himself. While he's all quiet there, ready to collapse from his fatigue mechanism, the doorbell rings, and a visitor comes in who he's very glad to see. Within a few moments, he's forgotten that he's tired, and they're chatting along and having a perfectly grand time. His fatigue is gone, because his fatigue was nothing but boredom with himself. In the same general way, children, having gone through several hours of schooling, are fatigued in certain faculties of the mind. Give them something else to do, they're not fatigued. You tell the child that is all tired out learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, and there are not many that are so fatigued at that these days. Well, anyway, presume that they are. Tell them that there's going to be a good tennis game or a swimming match or something. They'll have strength enough to go on with it. And after one of those horrible days of examinations in school when they're just worn to a frazzle, they can still dance all night. Why? Because energy follows interest. And nearly every individual who is chronically tired is simply chronically bored. Now, there are exceptions, of course, if the person is physically sick. If there's some desperate impairment to vitality, if some ailment is eating into the resources, or if the person is one of that small percentage who is legitimately worn out. all that we say